Can y'all hear me? Okay, sorry about that. So yes, my name is Xavier Prasad, Senior Legislative Counsel at the Human Rights Campaign and author of the Municipal Equality Index. I want to thank you for coming today to mark the release of our 8th annual Municipal Equality Index and to celebrate State College's leadership on LGBTQ equality. I'd like to thank Mayor Hahn, the Borough Council, Borough Manager Fontaine, Kevin Kassab, Autumn Busby, and everyone here for extending such a warm welcome to us. Thank you. And now, without further ado, I want to welcome Mayor Don Hahn.
Wow, this is quite an array of microphones here. As mayor, I would like to welcome the Human Rights Campaign back to State College. As a student here at Penn State in 1986, I worked for a congressional candidate named Bill Walkup, who was campaigning on a platform of progressive values, including the idea that people should be judged by the contents of their character rather than sexual orientation. The Human Rights Campaign Fund at the time agreed, and he was endorsed by the fledgling organization. However, campaigning in the middle of Appalachia during the height of the Reagan era and the middle of the AIDS epidemic, he was defeated. But from such unlikely soil, in such hostile environment, inspiration grows. Bill is now a political consultant in La Jolla, California. Many of his supporters are still in here fighting the good fight, and I am now mayor of State College. And the Human Rights Campaign is now the largest LGBTQ advocacy group and political lobbying organization in the United States, with a long string of successes to its name. With spectacular advances in marriage equality, anti-discrimination and hate crime legislation, and HIV/AIDS advocacy. We've come a long way, baby, but we have so much further to go. As mayor, I am proud of everyone in State College who made possible our perfect score on the Municipal Equity Index. Community Engagement Manager, Kevin Kassab. Where is he? Yes, there you are. Assistant, Autumn Busby, the LGBTQ Advisory Committee. Borough Manager, Tom Fontaine. Mayors and State College Borough Council members, both past and present, some I see here. Especially Mayor Emerita, Elizabeth Gorham, and last but not least, the people of State College. The borough may not always get everything right, but the people of State College has always stood behind progress. And when we get things wrong, they have not hesitated to demand that we get things right, that we correct things. And if we do not, they have replaced us with people who get things right more often. Looking back at what opposition Bill Walkup encountered 33 years ago, and the Human Rights Campaign had to encounter since then, it's been all too easy to give up ourselves to hate. However, I am reminded of the words of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. We are all works in progress, and experience has taught me that yesterday's enemies become tomorrow's friends. As mayor, once again, I commend the Human Rights Campaign for its work over the years and welcome the Human Rights Campaign back to State College.
Thank you, Mayor Hahn. Now I'd like to turn it over to President of the Human Rights Campaign, Alfonso David.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So today, we are living through a very difficult moment in this country when the health and rights and welfare of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people face relentless attacks from the highest office in the land. We receive news alerts frequently about the latest attempt to chip away at our most fundamental rights. As we fight back against blatant homophobia, transphobia, and bigotry, we are also working at the state and local levels to make sure that LGBTQ people have the protections that they need. And fortunately, many local officials in cities and municipalities all across the United States, including right here in State College, Pennsylvania, are advancing inclusive policies that are welcoming to all. This year, the Municipal Equality Index lays out in vivid detail municipalities that are stepping up for fairness and equality by protecting LGBTQ residents and visitors. 88 cities earned a top score this year, the most in the history of the Municipal Equality Index. A record-breaking 164 out of the 506 cities now offer transgender inclusive health benefits to city employees. Compare that to just 5 cities in 2012. Also, 408 out of 506 cities now have non-discrimination policies that expressly include sexual orientation and or gender identity, up by 30% just from last year. From coast to coast and in every corner in this country, this index is creating real change for people and incentivizing localities to move closer to full equality. This work not only affects the lives of LGBTQ people, it also affects the growth of local economies. Specifically, the Municipal Equality Index scores and the work being done by localities is being noticed by our country's large and leading businesses. Both companies and municipalities fundamentally understand that embracing equality is not only the right thing to do, it also helps businesses compete and economies thrive. The Municipal Equality Index, therefore, not only serves as a guide for city leaders to further equality, but it also serves as a resource for companies looking to expand into places that are actively fostering inclusion. While this progress is certainly critical, we also know that more action is needed to protect the health and the welfare of LGBTQ people, especially those that hold multiple marginalized identities. The prevalence of HIV among LGBTQ communities of color, as an example, is a major disparity and a serious health crisis. Just as an example, 1 out of every 2 gay or bisexual black men in this country will contract HIV in their lifetime. More than half of black transgender women living with HIV, which is compounded by the fact that they're also facing an epidemic of violence. As the report makes clear, towns and cities have a real opportunity to address this health crisis by making safe and effective prevention tools to HIV, such as PrEP, and make them more accessible to people that are at risk. The work that we do, the work to advance equality, requires commitment and requires hard work. And it would not be possible without our partners at the Equality Federation Institute and the statewide organizations that continue to fight fiercely to uplift and empower LGBTQ people in their states. So I want to thank you for doing all of this work with us. I especially want to thank Xavier Prasad, who's in our legal office at the Human Rights Campaign, for all of his work and all of the work from his team in putting this important report together. And I also would like to recognize Pennsylvania State Director Ryan Matthews for all of the work that he's done here in Pennsylvania. I'd like to also recognize Mayor Hahn and the Borough Council for your leadership, and of course, congratulate State College for receiving a top score in the Municipal Equality Index. All of the statutes, regulations, ordinances, policies, and services that are evaluated in the Municipal Equality Index are real tools for change that affect the daily lives of LGBTQ people. We are very proud of the progress that we have made over the years, but we need to continue to push for greater and more inclusive policies across this country. On behalf of the more than 3 million members and supporters of the Human Rights Campaign, thank you for coming, thank you for supporting the work, and thank you for fighting for equality and fairness for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfonso. Up next, we have Claire Thomas, founder and president of the nonprofit 100%sign.org.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, don't be put off by my accent. I'm a naturalized citizen who's been in this country for 35 years, and 26 of those years I've spent in State College. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of the 100% Sign campaign, a nonprofit organization based in State College that promotes universal acceptance and inclusion of all sexual orientations, gender identities, races, nationalities, and the intersection of all these dimensions. Basically, the 100% sign represents everybody on the planet. And I'm thrilled to be invited to offer a few comments from the perspective of the community in honor of this achievement by State College. And I really am proud of this city. I continually find myself telling people elsewhere that State College is a really special place to live. And the borough has, though, asked me to make my remarks specifically about the LGBTQA issues in town. And so I took a look at our ordinances governing employment discrimination, fair housing, and public accommodations. And indeed, all of these contain explicit LGBTQA protections within broader non-discrimination declarations. And they prohibit specifically discrimination based on actual or perceived sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. The borough also recently recognized the damage being done by so-called conversion therapies and banned their practice within our municipality. And lastly, they're fully inclusive policies as employers, the borough. So this is great, but I was almost more impressed by the borough's motivational language in enacting this legislation for these provisions. And I quote, "The municipality has an obligation to maintain an environment conducive to fostering respect amongst all residents in the community." And there's that really important three-letter word, all the community, including our LGBTQA citizens. It then goes on to say, "Incidents of unjust discrimination are harmful to the society we share. Such acts not only harm those who suffer them, but also threaten the reputation of the community." So it's important to us here in State College that we're actually seen to be inclusive. And I think that this is really important in these divisive times. But we should not forget that a city's character also comes from its residents and non-governmental organizations. We have so many commendable groups that are active in the borough who make State College the wonderful place that it is. But I just have time to mention one of these whose focus is specifically on LGBTQ issues. So the Center LGBTQA Support Network, or CLSN, has been active in the community for a while, and they are a 501c3 nonprofit which has made significant contributions to the visibility and care of the LGBTQA population in State College. They host a variety of support groups. They maintain a free clothing closet for transgender and non-binary folk so that they can find safe access to clothing aligning with their true gender. They can be found year-round tabling at many events in State College. They're quite relentless in this, in fact. They have a liaison on the borough's LGBTQA advisory council, and they work with the school district to provide an inclusive and affirming school environment. But I should also add that they're the most fun. They organize open mic nights, they have a wildly popular drag bingo nights, and their annual gala event is definitely one of the best parties I've ever been to, and certainly one of the most inclusive. More broadly, though, it takes a town full of good citizens to set the tone, and I'm truly proud that I live in a town where you can run into the mayor, as I have, at stamping squares at drag bingo, and that we have businesses like Webster's Bookstore and Cafe, which provides safe spaces for so many LGBTQA events. In my own work, I've also been hugely impressed by the number of people who have chosen to help create an inclusive environment in town by showing the 100% sign in their storefront and on their bumpers. All of this tells me that the residents of State College genuinely care about everyone, and that we want our city to be a comfortable and non-discriminating place for all our residents and visitors. So are we perfect in all things yet? I think the answer to this must be no, and I think the borough understands and knows this. So while getting the host to host this event is a wonderful recognition of the events made by the citizens and organizations and government of State College, we should not yet rest comfortably on our laurels. Nonetheless, achieving a perfect score this year on the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index is a wonderful achievement. And so I'll just say congratulations, States College, and thank you for your attention.
Now I'd like to welcome Freddie Purnell, President of the LGBTQ Student Roundtable.
Good afternoon, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Freddie Purnell. I am the current president of the LGBTQA Student Roundtable, the vice president of Queer and Trans People of Color, and also the first openly queer person of color to receive the Guide State Forward Award. And so I was Thank you. So I'm happy to be invited here today to speak on the student perspective on how the Municipal Equality Index has affected how I think it will affect students. So I wanted to share my personal experience. When I first was selecting colleges to come through, one of my biggest concerns attending Penn State was the fact that it was in the center of Pennsylvania. A lot of stereotypes coming from a city, West Philadelphia. I have always been around lots of queer people, and particularly queer people of color, so I was able to quickly carve out a community for myself down there where I could be affirmed and respected. So I was nervous when I was first coming to Penn State. But when I did arrive here, I noticed how accepting the community was, both on campus and off campus, and how there were resources available, such as the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity on campus, and places downtown that also made sure that promoting equality and, stumbling a little bit, promoting equality and supporting queer people was at the forefront of their objectives. When I first arrived here, I noticed there was a community where I could not only be myself openly and openly walk around wearing my pride attire, my rainbow stuff, but also a place for me to explore my own gender identity. And I've always felt comfortable and safe expressing myself, whether I am wearing traditionally masculine clothing as I am today, or whether my drag persona, Quaker Oats, is walking around town wearing a dress and high heels. I've never felt in danger. I've always felt that there's a place, a community that support me, and I've always felt that if something does happen, I know the people here will be willing to address that issue. And I especially wanted to bring the fact that there has been forces on campus and also down here in the borough that are willing to address issues when they arise. Specifically the Borough Council, whether we are working towards no matter what issues that we have faced on campus, they have always been willing to work with us, whether it be as big of an issue as when Anthony Zarzwicki was leading the charge and rallying students to get conversion therapy banned in the State College Borough, or be small steps such as implementing the rainbow crosswalks downtown, making sure that borough council members are attending the events that we are putting on campus, whether it be our annual drag shows, whether it be coming to the speakers that we bring to inform our community on queer issues coming to campus. Just seeing members, seeing the mayor, seeing council members down there, in not only coming to our events, but also actively engaging with our students, coming to the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, coming to the PRCC where the students are, and not just talking about what they're doing in the borough, but wanting to hear what we need and making sure that we are heard and that our opinions of the problems that we face are being addressed in the borough. And that is extremely important to me. And I'm also I'm very glad to see that we are being recognized by having such a high score on the Municipal Equality Index. And I think that this will go to show more people like me who are coming to Penn State that this isn't just a community on campus where we are being supported, but a community that spreads out through the entire borough, that you can feel safe on campus, whether you live downtown in an apartment, whether you're going to events downtown, and also there are spaces for queer events like Webster's, whether you are walking around downtown as a gender nonconforming individual, whether you're walking down being not afraid to hold hands with your significant other down here, and that when issues do arise, that we know that there are people who are willing to fight for us here, and that we are being supported and that we are being cared about. So I wanted to thank and be here to thank Penn State thank the Borough Council for allowing me to come here, and also thank the State College Borough for being so accepting and celebrate all the work that we have achieved thus far, but also to remind us that there are many steps that we need to take for the future, and that we are glad to be working with you, and that we hope that you will continue to allow the students to express issues and concerns and work with you to make sure that this is a community that is open and accepting of everyone, regardless of their sexual, gender, or racial identities. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. And finally, to close us out, please welcome Borja Gutierrez, co-chair of State College's Advisory Committee on LGBTQ matters.
Good afternoon. My name is Borja Gutierrez, and I'm an assistant teaching professor of Spanish at the Pennsylvania State University, and I serve as the vice chair of State College's LGBTQ Advisory Board. I want to thank the Human Rights Campaign for hosting this event at the Borough and recognizing our community's hard work in establishing a safe and flourishing environment for all LGBTQ people in our town. I've been asked primarily to provide some background on the formation of the LGBTQ Advisory Committee and the work that we have conducted thus far. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of working with Barbara Welshofer, State College Borough Manager Tom Fontaine, and then State College Mayor Elizabeth Gorman to create an advisory committee on LGBTQ matters with the explicit purpose of enhancing participation and access for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer communities in State College. Born from one of my strategic goals set as then 2016-2018 chair of the Penn State President's Commission on LGBTQ Equity, I envisioned the LGBTQ Advisory Board's responsibilities to consist mainly of advising the borough on LGBTQ matters, assisting with the annual Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index, providing LGBTQ competency training for borough staff, and assisting in ensuring vendor equity in contracting, establishing and supporting the Borough of State College's Pride events, and finally working with other municipalities who are interested in taking part in the above-mentioned activities, and in advancing as well sexual orientation and gender identity inclusive non-discrimination ordinances in their localities. This committee was to be fully representative of all the LGBTQ groups within the community, and that being as well inclusive of those in and outside of the university, and comprised of State College community leaders, State College and Penn State Police, and borough staff. In other words, inclusivity was built into this board from the very beginning to ensure a wide range of perspectives when discussing LGBTQ issues within State College. Tom and Elizabeth were very supportive of this vision, and they championed it to the State College Borough Council, which resulted in the council's support and adoption of Resolution 1190 on May 1st, 2017, which fully established the LGBTQ Advisory Board. In a short period of time since the creation of the board, there has been a multitude of accomplishments that enabled State College to increase its MEI score from 77 to 98 in 2018, and working towards our goal of a perfect score in 2019. Some of the 2018 accomplishments I would like to recognize is first, the gender-neutral bathrooms in the State College Municipal building and parking garages. State College Borough Council passing an ordinance banning conversion therapy for all minors in the Borough of State College, and establishing an LGBTQ liaison position for the organization. In 2019, the borough was able to further improve its score by increasing the amount of gender-neutral bathrooms, adopting an all-inclusive workplace policy, and ensuring that domestic partners receive work and health benefits. This was all possible because of the work of the LGBTQ Advisory Board and our partnership with the borough and local LGBTQ community organizations, some of which you have heard of today. Outside of this work to improve the MEI score, the board also led the way in hanging, for the first time in State College's history, Pride banners throughout the downtown corridor and a Pride Month flag display in the lobby of the municipal building. And we hung these banners early in April to coordinate with Penn State's own Pride events. This is an example of how campus and community were able to collaborate to enhance the quality of life for LGBTQ community members and visitors. Even though the LGBTQ Advisory Board has accomplished a lot recently, all of which has led to our current score, we remain committed to do all that we can now and in the future to ensure the inclusive and equitable participation and treatment of LGBTQ people in all facets of their lives in the borough. Thank you again for allowing me to speak and highlight some of our achievements of the LGBTQ Advisory Board.
Thank you everyone for coming. It's been so inspiring for me to hear all of your stories. We're here and excited to celebrate with you. I believe we have some refreshments outside, so please stay if you can, and I look forward to saying hi to as many of you.